Russia's new nuclear spaceship to compete against SpaceX and Elon Musk. If Russia has anything to say about it, Elon Musk and SpaceX won't be leading the reusable rocket space race for long. For nearly a decade, Russia's Keldysh Research Center has been working on a reusable rocket solution, and it's now building up the buzz with a new concept movie depicting how its spaceship works. Vladimir Koshlikov stated to reporters that Elon Musk and SpaceX pose no actual threat to the group's goals. Musk, according to Koshlikov, is banking on technology that will soon be obsolete, whereas Russia is attempting to shape the future of spaceflight. The Russian researchers say that their nuclear-powered rocket platform will be able to make it to Mars 7 months after launch, and that its reusable rocket stages can be put back into service after just 48 hours. Reusability is a priority, Koshlikov reportedly said. We must develop engines that do not need to be fine-tuned or repaired more than once every 10 flights. Also, 48 hours after the rocket returns from space, it must be ready to go again. This is what the market demands. Obviously, since SpaceX is currently the biggest name in reusable rocket tech, the topic of competition was brought up by reporters. Koshlikov's answer is somewhat predictable but nonetheless interesting. Elon Musk is using the existing tech, developed a long time ago. He noted, he is a businessman. He took a solution that was already there and applied it successfully. Notably, he is also doing his work with help from the government. This is just the latest shade being thrown on Musk from scientists in Russia, at the southernmost tip of Texas, alongside the Gulf of Mexico. A gleaming stainless steel rocket has been rising from the salt marshes, at nearly 400 feet. The new SpaceX rocket will eventually be taller than the Saturn V that carried NASA's Apollo missions to the moon, and its 33 engines will deliver twice the thrust. For Elon Musk, SpaceX's founder, it is meant to play a key role in one day establishing a human colony on Mars. But the rocket, dubbed the Starship, could have a far more immediate impact on a space industry that has already been shaken by Musk's ambitions. With the power to carry as much as 100 tons into low orbit around the Earth, his admirers claim Musk is about to transform the economics of the launch business. It's game over for the existing launch businesses, argues U.S. space entrepreneur Peter Diamandis. There isn't a car on the design board right now that could compete. Musk's space startup still has a ways to go to live up to the hype, including gaining regulatory approval to launch Starship from its Texas base and demonstrating that it can reliably reach space while returning both rocket stages for reuse, an important step toward lowering launch costs. Many scientists also doubt that a big rocket meant to colonize another planet can also serve as an all-purpose mode of transportation for more diversified and tedious duties closer to home. However, SpaceX's achievement in making their current rocket, the Falcon 9, into a successful vehicle. The mission for the first nuclear-powered spaceship to potentially ascend the heavens is named for the ancient Roman god of sky and thunder, Zeus. Russia is building a nuclear-powered transport and energy module to move large cargo in deep space. The first flight is scheduled for 2030 and will last 50 months as the spacecraft travels from the Moon to Venus and then Jupiter. NASA is also exploring nuclear propulsion systems for spacecraft in future missions to Mars. More than half a century after NASA successfully sent the world's first nuclear reactor into orbit, Russia is moving forward with plans to launch a nuclear-powered spaceship into space. It'll take quite the spacecraft to travel from the Moon to Venus, and then Jupiter over 50 months in deep space. Russia's space agency thinks their nuclear-powered transport and energy module will do it in 2030. Reported TAS, the Russian news agency. Together with the Russian Academy of Sciences, we are now making calculations about this flight's ballistics and payload. Roscosmos executive director for long-term programs and science Alexander Blashenko told reporters, according to TAS, America is changing faster than ever. Add Changing America to your Facebook or Twitter feed to stay on top of the news. The mission Zeus will start at the moon, where a spacecraft will separate from the transport and energy module, or tug, before heading to Venus, where it'll deliver another spacecraft and perform a gravity assist maneuver before finally reaching Jupiter. If successful, the tug will be the first of its kind in space, allowing for the transportation of large cargo in deep space. NASA, which most recently tested a nuclear reactor for spaceflight in 2012, is still soliciting proposals for nuclear electric and nuclear thermal propulsion that could propel a mission to Mars, potentially putting the first man on the red planet. While NASA's immediate priority is returning humans to the moon with the Artemis program, we are also investing in tall pole technologies that could enable crewed missions to Mars, said Jim Reuter, Associate Administrator of NASA's Space Technology Mission Directorate, in a release earlier this year. We look forward to seeing what innovations industry offer in nuclear propulsion as well as fission surface power via a forthcoming request for proposals for that technology. Russia has lost its long-held monopoly as the only country able to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station following the flawless manned launch by U.S. company SpaceX. The Russian space agency congratulated the United States and Elon Musk SpaceX on the first crewed flight ever by a private company, but experts said the launch should be a wake-up call for Roscosmos. The success of the mission will provide us with additional opportunities that will benefit the whole international program, cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev, Roscosmos executive director for crewed space programs, said it in a brief video address. Saturday's launch was the first of American astronauts from U.S. soil since the mothballing of the U.S. shuttle program in 2011 that left Russia's more basic and reliable Soyuz spacecraft solely responsible for transporting crews. Astronauts since then have all trained at Star City outside Moscow and studied Russian before blasting off from Baikonur launchpad in Kazakhstan. These flights have provided an unexpected opportunity for Moscow to continue producing Soyuz and maintain a substantial voice in ISS negotiations, said Isabelle Sauerbs-Verdera, a space policy expert at the French National Center for Scientific Research. The Russian space agency has also profited handsomely from the transportation of astronauts. A seat on the Soyuz cost NASA approximately $80 million. The annual losses might be more than $200 million. A major loss for Roscosmos' budget of roughly $2 billion. Andrei Inin, an expert at the Tsiolkovsky Space Academy in Moscow, warned if SpaceX starts carrying all U.S. astronauts. Last week, America's first crewed spaceship to fly to the International Space Station in nearly a decade returned safely to Earth, splashing down in the Gulf of Mexico. The mission was carried out jointly by NASA and Musk SpaceX. Its Falcon 9 rocket is semi-reusable. "We are making a methane rocket to replace the Soyuz 2," Roscosmos chief Dmitry Rogozin said in an interview with state news agency RIA Novosti. He said it will be a reusable space complex, noting that it will be possible to use its first stage at least 100 times. "Of course, we're looking at what our American colleagues are doing," said Rogozin. "But our engineers are trying to take a shortcut, not to repeat what our SpaceX colleagues are doing but surpass them." Rogozin said he was not impressed with the SpaceX spacecraft, saying its landing was rather rough. "It's not designed for ground landing. That's exactly why American colleagues chose to land on the water the way it was done 45 years ago," Rogozin said. Russia had for many years enjoyed a monopoly as the only country able to ferry astronauts, and the SpaceX launch meant the loss of a sizable income. A seat in the Soyuz cost NASA around $80 million. So that's it for today's video, guys. If you have liked the video, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll meet you in the next video.